Hello everyone and welcome to Godsall's Turnbuckle, the wrestling video podcast I run over here on youtube.com/Godsaw. This is going to be a different variation this week. I was considering going back to my traditional weekly variation, but based off of everything that was going down this particular week, which was, of course, AEW's Double or Nothing, I figured I would focus mainly on that. We will go back to our more traditional variation where we go over NXT, WWE, NXT, Raw, and SmackDown, all that fun jazz. We can go back to that next week. I wanted to focus this one around AEW's Double or Nothing pay-per-view that aired on Saturday, May the 25th. And, I'm going to go off and say it right off the bat. This was a good first start. Of course, there were going to be hiccups in this particular show. There were some audio issues, things like that. Things that are very simple to work on. And for the most part, I will go off and say that this show was... it was a rather good show, a very heavy work rate show, so you didn't really have much in the terms of differences in the terms of the match psychologies and everything that go along with that. Overall, though, it was an extremely exciting show to watch from start to end. I've always been a big proponent of major shows, and this would be considered a major show for AEW, for major pay-per-views to go 4 hours, which this one definitely did. And it also 5 hours if you count the pre-show, or the buy-in as they called it, for this particular one, which we'll go ahead and start off with that one. It was a decent pre-show. They started off with a casino battle royal with a little bit more of a contrived variation of battle royal rules, with traditional battle royal rules to go along with it. So it started out with 5 in the ring, and then suits were drawn from the competitors. So there was a particular suit that started the match, and then they would draw the other suit, and then those 5 competitors would come out until all 4 suits were drawn, and then a 21st person would come in, which they had the Joker card. A little bit contrived, but overall, decent battle royal. Definitely had some fun aspects to it in that side. Like I said, it was a little bit over contrived in the terms of the rules, but once everybody was out there, it was traditional battle royal. So it wasn't anything. It wasn't anything that kind of took you out of the match. A very well done battle royal, where most people were able to get some kind of spot in and everything to go along with that. You had Ty Dillinger, or should we say Sean Spears. Sean Spears showed up in the match. So did Tommy Dreamer. Jimmy Havoc was in there, and you just had a lot of different guys in there, both current and older, to go along with it. Glacier was in the match at one point, to go along with it. And the person who ended up drawing the Joker card, because his match ended up getting taken off, which was Hangman Page, and his match with Pac was taken off of the card based off of some kind of news, whether it was creative differences or whatever it was, that they ended up canceling that match. He got put into the match, and it was also announced that the winner of this match was going to be one of the contenders for the AEW Heavyweight Championship for the first one, on that one. Eventually it ending out where Hangman Page picked up the victory, after eliminating Luchasaurus, which, by the way, he looks really cool. I like the look of Luchasaurus. Sorry, I had a cough there. But overall, very good match. He eliminates Luchasaurus, and then thinking he had won, but MJF was still in the match. He had gone out under the ring, under the ropes at one point, and looked like they were going to do that normal contrived. He was outside the ring the whole time. Throws him over, gets the win. No, Hangman Page hangs on, and then does the buckshot lariat, and then eliminates MJF to get the victory. And he is going to be part of the first AEW Heavyweight Championship match. His opponent ends out getting determined later in the show, again with Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho. Up next after this on the buy-in, you also had Sammy Guevara going up against Kip Sabin, which this was a very good match, very high-paced, fast action. Both of them showing off a lot of athletic side to everything. Both guys getting to look good here, so the winner itself didn't really look buried in the end to go along with that. Kip Sabin does pick up the victory in the end, and it definitely showed a tone for the pace that we were going to be expecting for the entire show itself, which was a lot of fast pace and high work rate, with good aspects of storytelling to go along with that in the show itself. To go along with that, so they started off the pay-per-view, and I thought this was a good way of starting off the pay-per-view. This was SCU going up against Strong Hearts. These were the guys from OEW from the China promotion. It was Shima, T-Hawk, and this is my aspect of getting names poorly here. I forget who the other name was off the top of my head. But overall, I'll get all this right through researching everything down the line to go along with that. So I'm going to mess up names tonight. I really am with this particular one. But this was a good, fast-paced match. I thought this was a great way of opening the show, the main show as a whole. Eventually, SCU does pick up the victory with what is called the best Meltzer ever, which I thought was a nice way of playing off of it. I guess they're taking a shot at the Young Bucks to go along with that, who do the Meltzer driver. So it's a tombstone pile driver that Frankie Kazarian was doing, and then it's Christopher Daniels doing the best moonsault ever. I thought that was a nice little touch there to go along with that. And it was a very enjoyable, fast-paced match that I can't... It's hard to really call all the action that happened inside of there, because there was a lot of work rate going on in this particular match, and there was a lot of that going on. And quite frankly, a good chunk of these matches where I would say more towards the later half of the show, there was a lot of, yes, work rate going on, but storytelling going on inside of those particular matches as well. Up next, it was going to be a triple threat match with Kylie Ray, Nyla Rose, Britt Baker. Overall, this was overall, like with each of these three here, I've seen Britt Baker before. I haven't seen Nyla Rose or Kylie Ray. Kylie Ray kind of plays a bubbly babyface style character who who like switches a gear when it becomes bell ring time. They also had Allie on commentary to go along with this. By the way, the commentary itself was it was a hit and miss there. I definitely liked JR and Excalibur on that one. The guy that was with them, I don't think he's bad by any stretch of the imagination, but there were periods of time where he just came off super monotone or even bored to be there to a certain degree. But that was just a personal thing that I kind of observed while listening to the commentary through this one. Britt Baker, of course, playing her dentist or doctor role. Nyla Rose is kind of more of the bruiser of that group. And here's the thing with Kylie Ray. She plays that character up really well with the whole bubbly and smiley, the smiley Kylie Ray, as they call her. But the whole Pikachu face or whatever face it is on her attire is creepy to me. Very creepy. That one kind of creeps me out a little bit. But overall, the aspects of this match itself, I thought came off really good. But before the match started, Brandy Rhodes came out, and it looked like she was going to interject herself in the match, but she said she didn't want a great match. She wanted an awesome match. Lo and behold, Awesome Kong comes out. and she is added in there to make it a fatal four-way. Like I said, overall, I thought this was a very good match. All of them really working with each other really well throughout the entire thing. For the most part, I would say it stayed a triple threat match, as Awesome Kong did not necessarily do too much in this particular match. She did do a few particular spots and didn't really do much in the match itself. She did do a good Tower of Doom spot in there. She did get speared by Nyla Rose on the outside, which kind of took her out of the match itself, and Nyla Rose for a period of time as well, as Kylie Ray and Britt Baker fought towards the end, with Britt Baker picking up the victory in the end as well. Like I said, good match. All of them getting to really kind of show off what they were doing here, and I feel like this was a good way of going throughout the show itself, is that they can kind of show what these guys are capable of in the ring, ones who didn't necessarily have a very story heavy base going into their matches itself, where the storylines were kind of done on being the elite, and the one on Cody Rhodes' channel as well. But a lot of these guys and gals did not necessarily have the main stories going on along with that. They do hype up that Brandy Rhodes is going to face Allie at the Fight for the Fallen event in July on that one. So again, they do hype that up. Brandy does not look happy with Awesome Kong not winning. It was not a big fan of Britt Baker winning the match either. Overall, though, I thought this was a good match and a good way of starting off with their women's division as well. And we got a pretty good one with the women's division again a little bit later in the show. But before that, we had Best Friends, Chucky T and Beretta going up against Jack Evans and Helico. Sorry, butchering names again. But with those ones, and for the most part, I have not watched too much of Best Friends. I've seen some of their matches in New Japan. I think they were doing pretty good over there at the time. They weren't obviously going for tag team titles or anything like that. Most of the stuff that I've seen with Angelico and Jack Evans had been through Lucha Underground, where they weren't really teaming up together at that time. They had done most of that stuff during their AAA time. That was not necessarily Lucha Underground stuff. But overall, I thought this was a really good match. I think there was a lot of people that were thinking that they were going to go more comedy to go along with this. But again, a lot of these matches were focused around getting people familiarized with what these people can do in the ring. And like I said, most of the stuff that was storyline based was later in the show, after the 6-woman tag match, which was after this one. But lots of really good stuff in here. Again, a lot of fast-paced, fast-paced action. Hard to really save for the full action to go along with that. On that one, maybe even to the point of maybe a few. One too many kickouts, because we were getting shooting star presses off of the barricades, everything to go along with that. I thought it was overall fun to watch, and I thought it came off really good, with Best Friends eventually winning in the end. And it was interesting that they had Best Friends win this one, because of how they played off them on being the elite, where they kind of got themselves out of the Battle Royal and into the main card through nefarious means, or basically threatening the Young Bucks families with that one. But they have, so based off of that, you would kind of think they wouldn't go over, but they do go over in this one, which will be interesting to see how everything does play off with the whole wins are supposed to matter style that AEW is going with on that one as well. After the match, Angelico and Evans want to shake hands with Best Friends, but Best Friends, they want to hug it out. That's their thing. They want to hug it out on that one. So a little bit of a callback to like Daniel Bryan and Kane with Team Hell No on that one, if you really want to go with the WWE reference. But as they're going to do that, the lights go out, and when they come back, you have two dudes in the ring. They go back out again, and when they come back up, you have a whole bunch of more guys in a mask. I don't necessarily know who they were on that one, but this is going to be interesting down the line, whether it's going to be portrayed via being the Elite episodes, or if it's going to be portrayed through other shows that happened before weekly TV. But all these guys get in the ring and destroy all four of them, taking all of them out before everything eventually ending and the lights going back out and everybody's gone again. But overall, interesting stuff there, and it's going to be an interesting thing that they're going to be introducing characters that you don't necessarily know who they are right now. And commentary themselves didn't even really say who they were to go along with it. But it'll be interesting to see what this ends out being in the end. So, after this, I'm going to butcher these names because I'm bad with names in general. So we have Rijo and Rio Mezzanati. I'm sorry for butchering these names. And Hikaru Saidia going up against Aja Kong, Yuka Sakazaki, and Amy Sakura. This was a very good match, actually. This was very fun. This was a very fun match to watch. Again, very heavy work rate with this one. They did have a couple little mess ups more towards the end of the match, where Aja Kong's team was actually looking like they picked up the victory, but the bell rang early. The ref actually only counted 2, but the bell decided to ring early, which eventually led into the finishing fall, which was done basically with a running knee or a Kinshasa to Yuka by Rijo at the time. Sorry, I'm gonna butcher these names so badly, and I will be learning names because I think they're going to be sticking around for a while. Overall, I thought the match itself was good. Was actually very good. What was it? Rijo definitely looked very much the star of her team, even though she didn't pick up the victory in the end. But it came off as a really good match. From the beginning to end there. I enjoyed it. The crowd definitely got into it as well. It was definitely one of those matches that I think people were expecting a lot less and they got a lot more out of. So if you really take a look at it, I would say this was kind of the sleeper match of the night. Of course, there were a couple little mess ups there inside of the match with a late breakup and also that ending sequence as well. But overall, I thought the match itself came off really good. And this leads us to the final 3 matches, and you do have one segment in there as well. The final 3 matches, the first of which was Cody going up against Dustin Rhodes, and I will talk about this now at this time. So there were certain things that were going on during the show itself. Really, only 2 instances. One of them I thought was nice, little tongue-in-cheek. The other one, not so much on that one. So, when before they came on to the air, the Young Bucks, Cody and Kenny and Brandy Rose were out there, and they were touting the sellout and everything to go along with that. One of the Young Bucks goes like 20,000 people, and then Cody's like, dude, this place only holds 13. And then, so they're poking fun at the always exaggerating the numbers. And I like how, I think it was Nick at the time, basically says, like, this is wrestling, you always round up. So 20,000, yeah, new attendance record. It's wrestling. You always do that on that one. And then Kenny makes a nice little fun bit in there saying, oh, we got 40,000 in here. So I like that little bit. I thought that was funny. That was a nice little tongue-in-cheek. What Cody did before his match here, I'm going to be one of those, and I think I'm not the only one here that didn't necessarily like what he did. So before Cody and Dustin were even introduced, the entrance kind of raises up. And it shows this throne that kind of has a Triple H type symbol on it. So Cody comes out first. He takes a look at the throne and everything to go along with that. He kind of scoffs at it a little bit, walks down the ring, and then Brandy picks up a sledgehammer that was under the ring, hands it to Cody. He kind of does, and she even did it too. She kind of did that like Triple H look at the sledgehammer, and so did Cody. He power walks back up there and does a symbolic sledgehammer shot to destroy the throne, saying the King of Kings is going down and everything to go along with that. It's interesting that they would go at if you're gonna take a shot at WWE, that they would be taking a shot at Triple H, because he runs the NXT side, which most people kind of really like. Two, based off of the context and watching it, I had known about this little spot before I got to watch the show. I didn't get to watch it live last night. I did watch it today, but watching it in the context of the show itself, it felt very out of place. Like, the entire show, the tongue-in-cheek thing that they did at the beginning was like, that's whatever. It's kind of a wrestling thing to do that anyway, to tout attendance numbers and even maybe elevate them a little bit to go along with that. Especially WWE. It's been highly known that they do that with WrestleManias, or they don't necessarily just count the amount of people that are in the seats, but they also count the workers as well. Go along with that. It's always been something it's been out there. It's always been out there. That was kind of funny. We did have other references later in the night, but I thought that was actually quite good because of what they did with that later. But back with I'll talk about that when we get to the match itself. But with this particular spot here, with the destroying of the throne and everything to go along with it, it felt very out of place. It felt very unnecessary, and even to a certain degree, a little bit petty. Now, don't get this wrong. I won't get this wrong either. WWE is far from innocent about being petty. About poking fun at the opposition and everything to go along with that. I mean, we'll go back to Triple H's stuff during the Hall of Fame speech for DX, where I felt very cringy and very petty. This was also that as well. I'm going to call a spade. I've never liked this stuff, especially on airwaves. If you're doing it on Twitter or this or that, that's whatever. That's whatever. But when you're taking time on your own airwaves to poke fun at your opposition, I've never been the biggest fan of it. And let's also not fully get it wrong as well. This happened back in WCW. Both sides, WWF and WCW, were doing it. And it was probably, to a certain degree, a little bit more subtle, but it's always been kind of touted as like, and I won't say it in every case as well, but it was always touted as like, if somebody kind of started poking fun at the other one, the other side kind of started winning at that point in time. It was always the biggest one was always the whole aspect of the fact that they had 83 straight weeks. WCW had 83 straight weeks of winning the ratings war, and then the week that they make mention to it on WCW television, they end up losing the ratings that week. So it ended the streak. And I think there was also little bits that for WWE side that ended up happening. There's a special or WWF back then, especially the Huckster, the Nacho Man, also poking fun at Razor Ramon and Diesel by making the fake ones. DX's stuff with the tanks, everything to go along with that. Some of the stuff in context, pretty funny, but still something in terms of companies I'm not the biggest fan of. And I'll play it off as, and I'll also play that off as, I'm not a big fan when WWE does it. Like I said, the Hall of Fame speech, when they were kind of poking fun at AEW, or especially Triple H's stuff at the time. Maybe this is why they did use Triple H in the end. where he called it a pissant company and other things that go along with that. They're not in, it's not like it's not a receipt or anything for what was said, but like I said, I'm not a big fan of it being on the airwaves. On that one, that was one of the biggest things with Impact Wrestling, TNA Wrestling at the time, with that one, as well as that they were constantly shooting on the WWE to try to garner attention. And to me personally, it reeks of desperation. Now, this is one instance. Obviously, if they continue on doing it, then it feels like they're being desperate. But if it's like a one-off thing that they do, it's whatever. I've just never been a big fan of it. I wasn't a big fan of this portion. But what I was a big fan of was this match. That was fantastic. Honestly, probably my match of the night was Dustin Rhodes going up against Cody. Everything that they did in this match, telling the story of generation versus generation, it was really well done. To the point that they had, to the point that they got the referee distracted. Dustin was going to set up for the Shattered Dreams. Cody removes the turnbuckle padding, and as Dustin goes for it, for the Shattered Dreams, Cody dodges, rams his head in there. You get a few little back and forth sequences. Dustin's holding his head on the outside. He gets speared by Brandy Rhodes, and that gets her kicked out to massive applause. And yes, even though Cody was, Cody's considered one of the figureheads or one of the higher ups of this company that people really want to see. He was playing a massive heel in this particular match, and it was played to every aspect of it to a T in this match, even to the point that when Earl Hebner kicks out Brandy, she doesn't want to leave because she's one of the quote-unquote owners of the company, one of the executive VPs of the company itself, and then which actually got a thing with DDP coming out. He carries her out of the arena, so she is gone. When they come back to everything, Dustin is bleeding all over the place. Like, this was getting to that area of very hard to watch, even to the point that I had to look away a couple times with how much blood was coming off of Dustin and dripping onto the mat and onto Cody and onto Dustin himself. It was brutal. It was great story between the two of them. Again, it was like they were playing a generation versus generation thing. Cody even had a weightlifting belt that said Attitude Killer on there. This was a fantastic match from beginning to end. You do get each of them kicking out of each other's finisher once, which eventually ends with Cody picking up the victory with a second Crossroads. This was fantastic. And afterwards, the emotional bit with Cody kind of going babyface as well, saying, for the Fight for the Fallen, there's going to be a match with the Young Bucks and me, and a partner of my choosing. And he goes off and he tells Dustin, I don't need a partner. I don't need a friend. I need an older brother. I need my older brother. Because they're playing it off as that maybe Dustin was going to retire. And Cody was like, don't retire quite yet. Do this one match with me beforehand. And that was, it got you there. They got you on that one. It was very well done. And probably my personal match of the night on that one, just based off of the story. Up next, you have Bret Hart coming out to present the AEW title. So they're going to have a belt presentation of showing the new world title or the new heavyweight title. And he brings out Hangman Page, which eventually does lead to, because he was the winner of the Battle Royal, he's going to be competing for the title. You had MJF come out. He was healing it up massively in this particular promo, not match. He mocks the Hall of Fame incident with Bret Hart. It was going like, Bret, there's a fan coming for you. And I was like, ooh, that was like, do you really want to go there? Like MJF was playing it up the entire way through, healing it up massively. Like, I feel like they see something in him for a massive heel run at some point in time, which is why they probably gave him this spot here. It does eventually get interrupted by Jungle Boy and Jimmy Havoc confronting MJF, and eventually all three of them, Hangman Page and Jungle Boy and Jimmy Havoc, beating down MJF as Jimmy Havoc and Jungle Boy lead him off. Bret presents the belt, which is a good looking belt. That I'll say. The heavyweight title does look like it looks like a very good looking belt. It does have a little bit of a cross of a little bit of NWA style and the New Japan style logo, pretty big in the middle on that one. I think like some people, it's definitely going to grow on me. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it's pretty good. It's a pretty good looking belt. It also looks like it has some weight to it as well, where some of the titles nowadays don't necessarily look like they have any weight to them. This one looks like it has some weight to it. And it looked really good. It looked really good in the end. So this leads us to the AAA Tag Team title match, which was the Young Bucks going up against the Lucha Brothers, Pentagon Jr. and Rey Fenix. Again, most of the stuff that I've seen from them has been down in Lucha Underground. This was really good. This match itself was just really, really good. It did have a lot of good action in it and a lot of good work rate, but they did tell themselves a nice little story throughout the other little snippets of the work rate stuff, which was something that I actually liked through this particular one. It wasn't just an all work rate style thing. I thought personally this was a great match. There was a period of time that I would say I was not a Young Bucks fan because I felt like they were not doing so well about telling stories in the ring. That's definitely changed over the past few years of rewatching some of their stuff and watching their newer stuff as well. They've gotten really good about telling stories in the ring. The story that they told at the beginning of this match was that the Young Bucks itself had not been doing a lot of tag team action. They hadn't been doing a lot of wrestling because they've been setting up the company, everything to go along with that. So they were out of sync at the beginning, even to the point of hitting each other in a couple spots on that one. And as the match grew and kept going, they got more in sync, more in tuned, and that was the story that they were Young Bucks were telling throughout that portion of the match itself. Obviously, Pentagon Jr. and Rey Fenix looking to get a measure of revenge because of how the Young Bucks got the AAA tag team titles based off of them coming out there and challenging them after they had been through a grueling match and then winning the belts themselves at that time. I thought this was really well done. The entire match itself was really well done. You had this bit where Phoenix had one of the Young Bucks, I think it was Nick, and he does a bunch of springboards off of the ropes and then does a hurricanrana off the top rope to Matt Jackson. And I thought it came off really, it came off really good. You had a package pile driver into a stomp spot from the Young Bucks. It does eventually end with the Young Bucks picking up the victory over them with the Meltzer driver. Which I loved what they did here because Pentagon did the arm break spot. So what did they do? He has to hold. To do the Meltzer driver, they have to hold him with one arm up to hold him in the tombstone position as the other one did the flip in. I like that spot. I like the little continuity to it. It's like I can't really use this arm because of what happened earlier in the match, and they were still able to pull off the spot in the end. Really fun. Lots of fun on that one. So this leads us to the main event of the night, which was Kenny Omega going up against Chris Jericho. What can I say about this match? It was great. They pulled off a great one in the Tokyo Dome. They did it again here. The thing I wanted to make reference to, because I said it back in the Cody Dustin area, was that, and I like this one a lot more because they showed the evolution of Jericho. Well, for the most part, they didn't do the suit Jericho. They didn't do suit Jericho at the time, but it looked like his music was going to play, and then you had Lionheart out there. And he was doing the pose, everything to go along with it. The lights go back down. Another one shows up with the list of Jericho. Like that little touch, like that little bit in there. And then the last one before Jericho actually came out did the light up jacket, and it was kind of everything that you saw from Jericho was kind of a meshing of everything to go along with it. I like that little bit. I'm not against companies making references to the other companies in the terms of what they're, when someone comes in. I'm not an opponent to them not, referencing something good that they did. That I liked because it was a good reference, and showing Jericho's evolution. That, even to a certain degree, I wish WWE would do that more, to go along with it. Is like, hey, show this guy's evolution. They did a little bit of that, I guess, to throw a little bit WWE talk. They did a little bit of that for the AJ Styles Seth Rollins match. They were able to get footage from their one independent show from a long time ago, like 13 years ago or something like that. I like little touches like that. And I like little references that's like, hey, this is where this guy started. Now look where he's at now. Those are things that I absolutely love. And they did a really good job with this particular one. Kenny Omega coming out to new theme music that will probably grow on me at some point in time. Of course, him playing more of a video game reference towards everything, or anime style reference. I think it wasn't. He did have a little bit of a touch of Sephiroth on his ring jacket, because I believe there was a one wing on there, which is for the one-winged angel. So, which is a play off of his finish and Sephiroth to go along with it. Apparently, the other portion of it, and I think that this one would be right. It was from the main character from Sword Art Online on that one. So that was kind of his ring jacket and an inspiration for his stuff. This match itself, it was really good, and it was just really good. They did do a lot of hard hitting and a lot of brutal stuff that they were going for in like what they had done in their New Japan match. So you kind of got that story of like Jericho wanting to do everything he can. This has been festering in his mind for however many months, 16 months, everything about that particular match, and it came off super good. Really, really good on that one. Jericho countering the one-winged angel. So they're not gonna go about that aspect of people just kicking out of finishers at all times style thing. Where you kind of saw that maybe earlier on the show. You don't see that here. As Jericho was going to be debuting a new finisher, which we saw a little bit later. Kenny does kick out of a code breaker in there, but again, that's not Jericho's finish anymore. But overall, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed this match. The last three matches were I felt like almost masterpieces. Cody and Dustin's was probably the best to me on that one. Jericho here, he did the Judas effect. So he gets a running head start and does a spinning back elbow. So I like that little touch in there. So it wasn't just like a quick back elbow. It was, I'm going to get this head charge. And as I'm getting this charge, I'm going to twist and elbow you right in the face. You did also have that Kenny Omega broke his nose during a portion of the match, so it made it even more feeling of more effectiveness. And Jericho gets his win back here, which also means he's going to be fighting Adam Page for the AEW heavyweight title. Overall, like I said, I can't I can't speak bad to this portion of the match. If I have to go with a little bit of a nitpick to it, they did kind of have to do the finishing sequence over again on that one. The finishing sequence was Jericho countering the one-winged angel into a DDT, which he brings it into that Judas Effect elbow as Kenny has to get back up. With that one, they did kind of mess it up at the beginning, so they went ahead, they did a couple of different moves and then redid it at that time. That's my only little nitpick to this. Otherwise, it didn't really take me out of the match at all. I thought it was fantastic. After the match, Jericho gets on the microphone and he says he wants a thank you for everything. He's the biggest star of AEW. He's going to be the biggest one here. He deserves the world title. He deserves a thank you for everything that he's done. Because if it wasn't for him leaving, well, you didn't really say leaving, but if it wasn't for him, this whole thing with AEW would never have happened, which it's him healing it up, basically. Then you get a massive commotion in the crowd, and all of a sudden they cut a camera to Jon Moxley. For people WWE side, obviously know him as Dean Ambrose, starts walking down the stairs, kind of Shield style to a certain degree on that one. Walks through, and then walks into the ring. Walks to the barricade, jumps it, gets in the ring. Jericho is bewildered, does not know what's going on, and Jon Moxley's just like looking around at him. Is like, you don't know why I'm here, but I'm here. And then does the DDT to Chris Jericho. He then does lay out a referee as well. He goes after Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega counters the DDT, and they brawl through the crowd a little bit, and they brawl all the way up to the casino chips portion of the stage. So they have these giant casino chips for the stage, and they brawl to there. They knock one of them over. Moxley gets up onto the actual one of the actual stack of casino chips, and so does Kenny. He eventually DDTs Kenny off of or onto the chips, and then throws them off the chips, fireman carry style, AA style, however you really want to call it, off of there into a more of a staging area to go along with it. And that is how they go off the air. This was absolutely fantastic. They did need basically, I've always felt like with how AEW's kind of gone with their bigger things, they've always kind of needed that one little extra surprise to make everything kind of feel bigger on that one. So during the first press conference, that was where they brought out Chris Jericho, that he was signing with AEW and everything to go along with it. During their rally that they had in February, that's when they announced Kenny Omega. Here at the pay-per-view, their first pay-per-view, guess who shows up? It's Jon Moxley. He just left WWE's, no longer Dean Ambrose. They gave him this entire nice like send-off in WWE that he was leaving. And then he shows up at the competition just about 2 months later on that one. And I thought it came off really good. And it will be interesting to see what Moxley does on this particular one. He does play it seems like he is still playing some kind of unhinged character, but I think it's going to be a little bit more of a darker unhinged character than what you saw in WWE. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays off in the end. Apparently he has his first match at the CEO event, which is called Fighter Fest. On that one, apparently he's going to be having a match there as his first AEW match. We'll see what that one ends up being with. It looks like he's going to have some kind of program with either Chris Jericho or Kenny Omega. I would imagine Kenny Omega first, because of the whole aspect of he did a little bit more to Kenny Omega than he did to Chris Jericho. I imagine they'll do something with him and Jericho down the line, though. So with that being said, that is everything I've got for AEW Double or Nothing's pay-per-view. Overall, there are certain growing pains to the particular one. Obviously, certain issues in the terms of production and everything that go along with it. That's stuff that can be worked out. I am not going to knock them on this particular one, because this is if you count All In, this is literally the second time they've run a show on that one. The first time under the AEW name, the second time for the Bucks and Cody and all them to technically be running a show. Things will work itself out down the line as they get more shows under their belt. The only thing that I had a knock on was really the whole symbolic destroying the throne thing. That was my personal yeah, it's just not me. It's just not a thing that I can dig. Obviously the crowd loved it on that one. That's absolutely fine to go along with that. You play to your crowd on that one, and most of the crowd would absolutely love that. Me personally, I don't necessarily like things like that, but that's the only thing that I could really knock on the show. Honestly, I felt like that was a very minor thing in the end on that one, especially if it's only going to be a one-time thing that they do. They don't necessarily have to poke fun or do shoots every single time for their shows. But overall, this was a very strong show. This was a very good way for AEW to start. I thoroughly enjoyed this pay-per-view. With that being said, that is the end of this episode of Godstall's Turnbuckle. We will be back next week in a more traditional format. We will also talk about any AEW stuff that does come about in the terms of news as well. I don't think they have a show until Fyter Fest, which will be next month on that one. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. And again, I thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace out.